Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some ProRevenge. Our first story today comes to us from Nanobot0991. Torture a student and lose your whole career in the process. Let's jump right in. Hi Redditors, first post and longtime reader. This happened to me at a healthcare facility a few years ago. I work in a healthcare facility with different disciplines, and we have the main clinicians and assistants as well that do treatment. For the longest time before COVID, clinicians would take students from schools because they need to have some on-hand experience before they graduate and get to take their state exams. So I am the supervisor of the health clinic and am in charge of all the clinicians. Even though they're fairly independent, they have to report to me and I in turn report for the whole clinic. This starts with Dory. She has a lot of friends in one of the prominent universities here. She's very well connected with them. She graduated from there, is involved with their activities, and just active in the school in general. I've known Dory for years and have worked with her before, but she was never directly under my management because her home clinic was another location she would just help out. I would hear things about her, the way she treated the assistants that worked under her, a rudeness towards other clinicians, and some sketchy stuff about basically fraud of billing for services not rendered. This is a big no in healthcare, but it happens more than you think. Anyway, I had no proof of this and all the patients at my clinic had not voiced any complaints. Anyway, Dory had started taking students in and she was moved at my clinic. When she came there, she was still helping at another clinic not too far away. Dory accepted a student from her university to follow her and learn from her and slowly integrate into clinical treatment. This is where Hannah enters the picture. A very shy girl, did everything you asked of her, but because she was so shy and also being a new student, she's unsure if the treatment she's administering is the appropriate one. That's why you have people like Dory to be next to you and counsel and guide you. After the first few weeks, I started noticing Hannah would be in the clinic and we'd be doing treatments without Dory being around for a few hours. This isn't allowed because the instructor should be around at all times to supervise their students. After a few times of noticing this, I brought Dory and Hannah into my office and said this cannot happen and is not allowed. If it happens again, I would have to report it, and this was not something I wanted to do. If I did report it, the student would lose their clinical placement and would have to wait 6 months until the next placement, which pushes back the graduating date. A few weeks go by and things had been fairly normal. The student would be in the clinic sooner, but would not be performing treatment. She would, however, shadow other clinicians. But Dory was still coming in later than usual. One day, as I'm walking by Hannah, I see that she's on the billing menu. In order to be on that screen, you would have to be clocked in, otherwise the system won't allow you to do it. I call her to my office again, and I sternly tell her that I had specifically said she couldn't treat patients, and she doesn't have a clock-in username and password. Hannah proceeded to tell me that Dory had told her to clock in for her and start billing patients before services were rendered. Continues to state this had been going on for the whole time she had been a student. Now, I don't see the billing until the next day, but I don't have a clock of when the billing was submitted. I tell Hannah that this was strictly not allowed, but I need more information before I make a decision. I call Casey, the other clinician, into my office and she proceeds to tell me that Hannah goes home crying and bawling every single night due to Dory threatening to fail her as a student if she didn't do all of these things for her. Dory had used her leverage in her school to strong-arm Hannah into doing all her work while she wasn't even there. Hannah then goes to tell me that after the first meeting with Dory, Hannah, and OP on what they shouldn't be doing, Dory brought Hannah to the side and told her, "He's cool, he knows what's really going on, but he has to say that as a manager, so keep doing it." At this point, I asked the student if any of her evaluation or letters of progress had been submitted to her school so they know she's been making progress. Hannah says that Dory has never submitted the necessary paperwork to the school and has gotten away with it because of her connections to the school. So if I fired Dory, she would in turn take revenge on the student and fail her at her clinical. She would be 6 months to a year from being placed in another clinic, meaning she would be either very late or just fail and not be able to graduate. I called Katie and reported everything to her, told her my fear for the student and the constant trauma she was going through every day, crying, being threatened, and retaliated against. Katie was also fearful of this, but also worried the liability this put on the company. Also, how long it had been going on. So she didn't have an answer on how to handle the situation without harming the student. So here was my revenge. I started watching everything Dory did. Treatments, time and complaints, etc. One weekend, Dory had to work without her student on a Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. When I came in on Monday, I noticed a patient had been to the hospital since Friday, but she had still been billed for services. I checked the clinician. It was Dory. How was she able to treat a person that wasn't even in the clinic and also be able to bill her? So I had my reasons to fire her. I had the evidence I needed, but I still wanted a bit more. I texted Dory and asked if she had seen said patient. She reported yes she had, but also asked if she had billed less than what she should have because she would be able to bill more if I wanted. I told her that wasn't necessary and there was no way to bill more due to the patient being in the hospital the whole weekend she had billed. She knew from that moment what was going to happen. The next day, OP and Katie waited for Dory and she was fired on the spot, just for the fraud. The student thing never came up in conversation and she had no idea we had known for a while. I had another clinician write up a whole letter on what the student was doing and that she was a good clinician and has completed the necessary work to be able to graduate. Dory was unable to get any more work after that because the incident had been reported to the government and had that on her license wherever she went. Her new employers would look at the license and not want to hire someone with that on their record. Last I heard, she was working at an Amazon warehouse as a manager. From a doctorate degree to warehouse manager, after many years, I'm sure, of fraud and abuse. The best part is that student has graduated and gotten her degree and is working in the field. She's a great clinician and has done great work in her field, and I still keep in contact with her. She is very thankful for being pulled out of that situation. From all the Reddit stories that I've read over the past 2.5 years, I've noticed that there's a lot of people in the medical field that feel like they can just coast by because they have the seniority. And they are the ones who say whether the younger people, the ones just starting out, get to move up or not. The younger people are afraid of saying anything because they want to move up. This is their career. And anything that comes down bad on them means that they won't be able to do this in the future. It's nice every once in a while to hear a story of one of them getting put in their place. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from Tough Plankton. The traffic tickets became the least of his problems. Let's jump right in. A few years back, my old car was on its last legs. My mechanic said it wouldn't last much longer, and the best thing to do was to sell it cheap and move on before it gave out and was ready to be scrapped. I loved that little car, but I put it up on Craigslist for $500 and got a bite. The guy buying it was in his 20s with a pregnant wife and his dad was footing the bill. I was clear with them that it was sold as is and I couldn't make any promises about its longevity. The buyer said that if it lasted 6 months, he'd be happy with the purchase, so he signed the bill of sale and I handed over the title. I immediately went to the DMV website and registered it as a sale and assumed he would finish the process by transferring the title. Turns out I was wrong about 2 things. The car lasted much longer than 6 months, and he didn't bother to pay the $77 to transfer the title. I discovered this when I received a photo radar ticket for running a red light. I was confused because the street was way across town in an area I rarely visit. When I went online to view the high-res traffic cam photos, I found it was the buyer in my old car, but my name was still attached to the plates. After some serious cursing, I copied all the records, dates, bill of sale, etc., and mailed copies off to the courthouse. It was his citation, but I had to prove it to the court. 2 weeks later, I got another letter from the fuzz, another ticket, this time for speeding. Same driver, same car, same plates with my name still attached. Again, I had to copy all the paperwork, write a long letter to the clerk, and mail it all off to the courthouse. The third ticket really made me mad. I started making calls and discovered that this scam is pretty common. Some folks buy a junker and rack up fines until they wreck or abandon the car, and their name was never on it, so nobody bothers to punish them for it. It's all on the previous owner to clean up the mess and prove who was at fault. This time I wrote an extra long letter to the court clerk and did a little research to include the guy's picture, home address, and listed phone number. A few months went by and I thought it was over. Heck, the car should have given out by now anyway. Then the fourth ticket arrived, showing him in high res, zipping past a radar cam in my old car, with my old bumper sticker still on the back, Giant Meteor 2016, and all his kids piled into the back seat. The fifth and sixth tickets felt like Groundhog's Day. I didn't even bother to put the paperwork away. I kept it out on my desk ready to copy. By the time the seventh ticket arrived, we were well over a year beyond the sale, and enough was enough. This wasn't just some dude forgetting to do some paperwork or not knowing the right way to go about buying a car. This was intentional. It was time for some ProRevenge. First, I called the police and, after a week of back and forth, finally spoke with a traffic cop who said enough is enough and went to pay the guy a visit. He said he couldn't disclose what would happen during that discussion, but the total amount of the likely unpaid traffic tickets was enough to get his attention. The tickets and late fees were several times the value of the car. That wasn't enough. Just having to pay his tickets wasn't appropriate for the 7 freaking times I had to copy that darn bill of sale for the court clerk. So I started going back through my records of every ticket and every photo, and I found an interesting theme. In every photo, his tiny kids were in the car, including the newborn infant, all packed into the back seat. I called Child Protective Services anonymously. I didn't provide any information that was not 100% factual and verifiable. The ticket showed that this guy was operating an identity fraud scheme out of his home, essentially stealing my identity and who knows how many others. His children were present throughout. Furthermore, he regularly violated traffic rules and put his children in serious danger by speeding, running red lights, and committing other traffic violations. If he was doing this stuff so often in front of a big white camera, how do you think he was driving when he wasn't being watched? I declined to provide my name or number as I had nothing more to offer and didn't want to be involved in the case any further. I gave them all the evidence I had of 3 small children in repeated dangerous and illegal situations, all of which were verifiable by photo evidence and court documents. After that, I stopped getting traffic tickets for him. Maybe the car finally gave out. I did a little bit of research after reading this story because up where I am in Canada, you have to remove your plates from your car when you sell it to somebody else or trade it in or anything like that, and those plates have to be returned to our DMV. Apparently that's not the same thing down in some of the states, and that was absolutely news to me. It just seems like a pretty dumb system if you ask me, because there's nothing there to cover your own butt. There's people out there that are going to try and scam you. This guy got a car for $500 and didn't think he would have to pay any tickets. I'm sure he's gotten away with it before too. Our last story today comes to us from Marine. Want to go on vacation and not pay us for the work? Won't be home for a few days after informing us? Sure. Let's jump right in. My grandpa is on my do not ever F with list in any way. Short list: taught Shotokan overseas in Korea, one of the highest ranked black belts outside of Japan. I've seen security footage of some of his bar fights. It's legit. Was a personal bodyguard during the 70s for some governors in our state. Worked construction for decades, one of 2 master carpenters in my state, which leads to this story. During summers, I would work with Gramp doing a lot of his manual monkey labor, shingles up to the roof, mixed concrete, sand floors, keep everything tidy, etc. He'd been screwed over the years, as many general and subcontractors are, and as the years went by, his contracts for work got more and more specific. Payments on a certain schedule, new and unexpected costs and how they're dealt with, etc. One particular job started out pretty normal. He's hired to build a new deck with a new patio and driveway patio for this guy. Let's call him Crap Brain. New construction, newer house, easy job. Gramps had even done work for him in the past, no problems. Deck is to be partly covered, 10 by 50 on the front of the house, 4 feet up with concrete stairs. Brand new door, brand new picture window, 4 by 8. Driveway is to be stained, freshly poured between the new deck and the garage Grandpa built a few years ago. Guy was even going on vacation for a few weeks. We can get the job done in those 3 weeks if we bust it. Guy pays 50% of the estimated cost up front and was to pay the remaining 50% over the agreed time. Now, this first payment covered all material for the original estimate and paid us basically minimum wage for the hours we'd put in. The next few installments would cover the subcontractor for pouring the driveway and the remaining hourly wages. Weekend 1 passed. No agreed payment. Guy's on vacation, maybe he forgot to set up autopay, whatever. Send him pictures on AOL email. The original concrete stairs had been removed, new door was in place, deck was framed out, but we didn't hear from Crapbrain. Week 2 passed. Crap, no pay yet, but work needs to be done. Concrete guys are here for the new slab and stairs. Let's get it done so we can move on to new jobs. Subcontractor is a longtime family friend and distant relative, call him Timmy, does us favor and pours and stains on an IOU. Send more pictures on AOL, no response from Crapbrain. Week 3, we finished our work 2 days early. Subcontractor has finished their work. It looks amazing, up there on a nice hill, but we haven't been paid for this work. Gramp finally gets Crapbrain on the phone. Hey Crapbrain, how was vacation? Blah blah blah, skip forward 3 to 5 minutes. Gramp is a talker and lived in the vacation state for a few years. Great, glad you had a great time while I was busting it here. Holy heck, it's been hot. What did you think of the work? Oh, it looks great. We'll be home later day after tomorrow. We're having a get-together with XYZ. Well, glad you're going to enjoy it. Oh hey, seems like your bank didn't pay us on the scheduled agreement. So? Excuse me? So what? I'm not paying you the rest of the money. Work's done. Tough luck, you old effer. I understand. Click. Well, OP, let's get to work. Oh, and get Timmy on the phone. Crapbrain had that large garage Gramp had built years ago, and the guy let us use to store equipment while they were out. First, the brand new door was removed and placed in the garage. Then, each piece of the brand new deck was removed and placed into the garage. Sadly, the posts were 36 inches deep, but hey, a 4x4 truck pulled those out of the ground nice and good after a bit of shoveling. Those were also placed into the garage. Window was also removed from the frame and placed on top of this pile. Deconstruction is much faster than construction after all. Timmy was rather unhappy as well about not getting paid, but hey, we found out that the new stairs we poured moved well enough across the new driveway and patio, and some bleach took care of the stain we put onto the patio. Sadly, it had a few chips in it from all the ruckus, and someone made the time to take a diamond saw and cut all the way through the seams. Sadly, it'll now settle at an uneven rate, but all the material Crapbrain paid for, he got to keep. We even went into the garage in the evening and made sure his front door was locked, you know, for security. Even the few tools we needed for the job, which Crapbrain paid for, stayed in the garage. Fast forward 2 days, Crapbrain comes home and throws a crap storm. It had stormed, and his AC had been running non-stop with the increase of draft into the front of the house. Of course, he threatens Gramps with a lawsuit and the police, which just makes Gramp laugh. A close relative was the assistant chief of police in our small town, unbeknownst to Crapbrain. We did everything we were contractually obligated and paid to do. All the equipment, all the materials were in Crapbrain's possession. That is, after all, what he paid us for. Crapbrain blustered a lot, but it did F all. Fast forward a bit, no one in the local union will deal with the guy. Gramps and Timmy are both pretty well respected and do a lot of great work around town. Someone from out of town ends up fixing the issues and does a crap job of it. Darn. One of the best quotes ever made is "Be careful how you act, because the toes you step on today might be connected to the butt you have to kiss tomorrow." I don't know how this guy expected that everything was just going to be left in place when he tried to screw them out of the money. I was a little disappointed that at the beginning of this story it was mentioned that Gramps was good at martial arts, but that didn't take place in this story at all. Darn. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.